Have you ever wondered why we don't get bored while using Facebook, Instagram, or playing our favorite games, whereas looking at books often makes us feel sleepy, and what impact these platforms have on our minds? In today's video, you will learn about social media addiction, porn addiction, and game addiction through facts based on scientific research. After knowing this knowledge, you'll likely think 10 times before engaging in such activities. Let's start with porn addiction. Did you know that porn addiction can harm our brains similarly to how drugs do? You might be surprised to know that when the brains of porn addicts and drug addicts were scanned with an fMRI scanner, showed similar levels of damage. Look, any form of addiction, whether it's porn addiction, social media addiction, or game addiction, all of them initially damage our brain's reward system. To understand this further, in a research study conducted by Valerie Vaughan and her team, when the brains of porn addicts were scanned while they were watching porn, the resulting brain activity due to porn was astonishing. This is a normal person's brain, and this is a porn addict's brain. You can see how the brain of this individual is lit up like a bulb. This is due to the excessive brain activity primarily caused by the release of dopamine, often referred to as the pleasure hormone. However, the issue with excessive porn addiction is that it can lead to a decrease in dopamine receptors, especially the D2 receptors. These receptors play a crucial role in controlling the prefrontal cortex, which is the part that makes us intelligent, controls our impulses and behavior, and distinguishing us from animals and making us human. However, excessive watching of porn can lead to damage and reduction in D2 receptors, particularly in the prefrontal cortex. This gradual reduction weakens our brain's capabilities over time. It's possible that some of you may have doubts about the points I've mentioned. So on this topic, a powerful book has been written titled Your Brain on Porn. If you visit the website of this book, you'll find around 100 scientific research studies say that how deeply porn can damage our brains. Look, all these scientific research studies clearly state that watching porn can indeed harm our brains significantly. The most significant impact of watching porn movies on our brains is that it significantly reduces the metabolic activities taking place in our brains. Consequently, our brain doesn't function at its full potential, meaning it struggles to perform all its functions efficiently. You can see the difference between a healthy brain and an addicted brain here. In the case of an addicted brain, the metabolic activities are significantly reduced compared to a healthy brain. With such reduced metabolic activities, it becomes challenging for an individual to concentrate properly, observe things properly, or learn effectively. You know that, in our brains, there's a hormone called dopamine that is released during various activities such as eating, engaging in sexual activity, or having social interactions. When we receive an unexpected reward, our brains release dopamine. And when dopamine is released, we experience a very pleasant feeling. This is why dopamine is referred to as the pleasure hormone. Another role of dopamine is to motivate us to repeat pleasurable activities, making it the desire hormone, also sometimes called the molecule of more. Now, when we watch porn due to the Coolidge effect, our brain releases nearly 3 times more dopamine than usual. This is why we feel an incredible sense of pleasure while watching porn, and when we start watching it on a daily basis, our brain becomes tolerant to dopamine. Just like when we join the gym, we might struggle to do a little exercise on the first day, but after a month, our exercise capacity and timing improve significantly. Similarly, if someone consumes alcohol or any other substance and experiences a high or euphoria the first time, they might need a larger amount the next time to achieve the same experience. This is called building tolerance. Likewise, when we start watching porn regularly, our brain becomes tolerant to the high levels of dopamine. This means we need more and more dopamine to experience the same level of pleasure. This is why porn websites offer various categories of videos, to provide different types of stimuli that can trigger a stronger dopamine release in our brains, leading to addiction. Please understand that what I've shared is not imagination, it's the truth. All of these facts have been discovered through research conducted on thousands of individuals, and they have been shared with the world. Next, let's discuss video games and social media addiction. There have been over 1,000 scientific research studies conducted on the internet about video game addiction. Research number 1, Montreal researchers have discovered the first link between shooter games. Loss of gray matter means playing shooting games like PUBG, Free Fire, Call of Duty, Fortnite, and others, leads to a reduction in brain cells or neurons in areas such as the hippocampus. This reduction in neurons can significantly increase the chances of developing mental disorders. The research clearly indicates that after playing games like Call of Duty, there is a decrease in neurons in the hippocampus of the brain. When developing games like Call of Duty and PUBG, the focus is often on making them as addictive as possible. These games are designed in such a way that players' brains release more and more dopamine when they play. When playing PUBG, continuous dopamine release occurs in the brain due to activities like winning chicken dinners, scoring headshots, and engaging in social interactions. Dopamine plays a crucial role in activating the brain's reward system, sending signals directly to the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for concentration. This continuous release of dopamine keeps a PUBG player intensely focused on the game for hours without interruption. You might be wondering what the problem is here. The issue is that this makes your brain dependent on dopamine. To maintain concentration for extended periods, your brain requires dopamine boosts at regular intervals, similar to how games provide them. Eventually, this reliance on dopamine can diminish your concentration and attention span, potentially reducing it even below that of a 10-year-old child. Similarly, when scrolling through every photo, video, or post on social media platforms like Facebook and Instagram, our brains experience dopamine release. That's why people develop a habit of checking Facebook every 15 to 20 minutes, and even activities like liking posts or reading WhatsApp statuses have an impact on the brain's dopamine and reward system. You have already learned so much about addiction that I don't think I need to explain social media addiction in detail. Just like other addictions, this addiction to social media also damages the brain's reward system. In conclusion, all addictions, whether it's porn addiction, social media addiction, or game addiction, are very real. They significantly affect our brains by overwhelming our dopamine receptors, ultimately weakening our brains. Now, let's talk about recovering the brain's dopamine receptors that have been blown or depleted. For this purpose, you can undertake a dopamine detox or dopamine fast. Of course, individuals who use drugs or any other substances in a similar manner should not attempt a dopamine detox and should consult a doctor instead. Now, let's discuss the process of a dopamine detox. To engage in a dopamine detox, you don't have to do much. You simply need to dedicate one day a week to stay away from all kinds of activities related to social media, pornography, gaming, or any activity that stimulates your brain with excessive dopamine. On this day, you should avoid using your mobile phone, or computer, or engaging in extended conversations. Refrain from consuming junk food as well. Essentially, for that one day, you should aim to keep yourself unstimulated and maybe even a bit bored. The idea behind this is that it's up to you to challenge yourself to get bored. By doing so, you can start the process of recovering your dopamine receptors. During this detox day, you can meditate, observe your mind, write down your thoughts and feelings on paper, or simply go for a walk. In essence, you have the freedom to choose how to make yourself feel bored on that particular day. By doing this, firstly, your brain's dopamine receptors will begin to recover, gradually making your brain stronger. Secondly, when you spend the entire day observing your thoughts and feelings, your awareness will gradually increase. However, it's essential to understand that detoxing from dopamine for just one day a week will take your brain a considerable amount of time to fully repair. Therefore, My recommendation would be to use social media only when absolutely necessary and eliminate other activities immediately, especially pornography. You see, some things cause less harm, while others cause more damage. Pornography is one such thing that significantly harms your brain. Another benefit of dopamine detox is that our brains always want to do everything but never want to get bored. So, make your brain so bored, so incredibly bored, that your brain pleads with you, hey, let's meditate or read a book, or do something else, but please, don't make me bored. Your brain is much more powerful than you think. Our brain always wants to be engaged in those activities that give it dopamine. In a scientific experiment, a machine was implanted into the brain of a rat, and pressing a button on this machine released dopamine in the rat's brain. An electric pad, carrying a current, was placed between the rat and the button. You won't believe it, but the rat actually went and pressed the button despite the risk of getting an electric shock, just to receive a dopamine boost. However, when the same button was replaced with food, the rat didn't take the risk of walking over the electric pad to get the food. So, to conclude, our brain can do anything for dopamine. Now it depends on how you give dopamine to your brain. You can either indulge in activities like pornography, social media, or games to get that dopamine fix, which will weaken your willpower and brain. Or, you can read books, meditate, and set big goals and dreams to give your brain dopamine in a healthier way, enhancing your willpower and concentration. This will lead to an overall improvement in your life. You will start thinking beyond your selfish behavior and contemplate doing something for your country and society. But remember, the decision is entirely yours about which path you choose. So, for this video, that's all. If you found it helpful, please like, subscribe, and share it with those who need it, especially if they are under 25 years old. Thank you so much for watching.